everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the 1999 Project, where I'm covering every movie that I possibly can from the year 1999. We are in the midst of February 99, which means that in 1999 timeline, Steve Austin has successfully thrown Vince McMahon off of the Black Bar Steel Cage at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So we're eating good, boys. But let's dive into some movie talk, starting off with not really a movie per se, but a really long TV miniseries from the brilliant and demented mind of one Stephen King. It's Storm of the Century.
Don't let him take my son!
Storm of the Century.
Storm of the Century was a three-part miniseries released on ABC, and it was directed by Craig R. Baxley, primarily known as a stuntman on movies like Predator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. And while Stephen King did write the screenplay for this, it is not based off of a book of his. The marketing calls this one a novel for television. It tells the story of a small little town in Maine, because in Stephen King's mind, there are only two states in the US, Maine and Colorado. The town is called Little Tall Island, and it's one of those towns that everybody knows everybody, even down to the secrets they keep. And so when a dark sorcerer comes to town and basically takes up shop and wrecks of just about everything with the massive storm he brings, the townspeople ask him, "Why are you here?" And, well, the answer to that question turns the town upside down. I'm not a super fan of Stephen King, but I am a fan of his work. I am actually listening to the audiobook Carrie as of this recording, and it's narrated by Sissy Spacek. And maybe it's just because like Sissy Spacek was in the De Palma Carrie, there's the connection there, but she does a really good job on that. But that's a side road. I'm kind of slowly working my way through Stephen King's books one at a time. I got a long way to go on that, but I'm doing it. But as far as these miniseries go, the Stephen King miniseries have ranged from what I have seen in reviews from good to basically fodder for nostalgia critics, nostalgia ween. Now, having seen Storm of the Century, I'd say this is a bit of a mixed bag. On the one hand, this show kept me engaged throughout. However, the ending almost kills it for me. The best part of this miniseries by a lot was the Sorcerer. He's played by Colm Feore. I hope I'm saying the name right. He would go on to play, among other roles, King Laufey, the Frost King in the first Thor movie. He has such a presence about him that it unsettles you every time you see him. He just grabs this town with an iron hand and he just does not let go. He has a presence about him that it's magnetic. The main running theme throughout this whole series is that this town passes itself off as quaint and peaceful, when in reality, because it's a town where everyone knows everyone, secrets get passed, and not all of them are very pleasant. It kind of boils over into the ending of the show, which I will not spoil here, but let me just say a choice is made here. A choice is made that I just did not like, and I will not spoil it here, but to make a long story short, when this just happened, I was like, it was infuriating to me just how much I didn't agree with it. Thematically, this did make sense, but yeah, just play the Roger Ebert clip.
That I admire what he did, and I hate it.
Thankfully, the ending, though, does not curtail the good work that the series does. I am going to give this a good rating. It is very long. If you watch it in one sitting, it's about 4 hours and 20 minutes long. I had to break it up for time constraints. But I do give this one a modest recommendation. It's not the best, but it's not like Langoliers or Tommy Knockers quality bad. It's perfectly watchable. But moving on now to yet another teen movie that just didn't sit right with me. It's Jawbreaker.
Jawbreaker.
Our best friend is dead!
Do you have any idea what that means?
You were shooing for prom queen?
Jawbreaker was directed by Darren Stein, and it starred Rose McGowan, Julie Goodhart, or Rebecca Goodhart, excuse me, she plays the role of Julie, Judy Greer, and Pam Grier. No relation. It tells the story of a group of girls, high school girls, named the Flawless Four. They're basically the plastics from Mean Girls, but just set in. Yeah, they're basically the plastics from Mean Girls. As a practical joke on one of the members, three of the other members tie her up and shove a jawbreaker in her mouth as a practical joke. So when they drive off with her in the trunk, they come to realize that Jawbreaker didn't just break her jaw, but suffocated her, and in turn, killing her. And the only other person that knows about this, other than the three of the remaining Flawless Four, is a girl named Fern, played by Judy Greer. In exchange for Fern's silence on the matter, she is inducted into the Flawless Four, taking the name of Vinette. This movie did not do super great at the box office. It had a $3.3 million budget and it only made $3.1 million. That's technically a flop when you have to pay theaters and marketing people and all of that. However, this movie has gained a bit of a following over the years, so I do understand that. But this is yet another high school teen kind of movie that just I didn't really care for. It's not the worst, but it's on the level of She's All That for me, whereas like I get why others would like it. I just didn't like it. The acting is pretty solid across the board, though my favorite part of the movie by a lot was Julie, played by Rebecca Goodhart. By a lot, she is the most likable character. It was going to be Fern, but, well, more on that in a minute. But by a lot, Julie is the most likable part of the movie. Almost immediately, with the exception of Julie, you just dislike everybody in this movie. Like, even Fern starts out promising, but by the end, she gets unlikable as well. And like I said, with the Storm of the Century twist, I have a feeling that this was kind of the point, but I just did not care for the direction of this at all. The thing about Fern's character is that she starts out as not necessarily a nerd, but like the picture of unpopularity. However, when she becomes Vinette, like the One Ring, she immediately becomes drunk with power. And again, I have a feeling that this was by design. I just didn't care for the direction of it, and I thought it was kind of off-putting. The nose does get pulled up at the end, no spoilers, but I just question why we even went there in the first place. Also, you have to really suspend your disbelief with, number one, how can a Jawbreaker kill someone? You don't just completely just try and do it all in one shot, even though like it was forced in. Like, how was just play the Batman Forever clip?
It just raises too many questions.
At the end of the day, I am going to give this a forgettable rating. Again, this is not the worst, and I get why people would like this, but I just didn't care for it. It just wasn't for me. Solid acting, but that's really about it. But now, I'm happy to report that the next two movies I'm going to be talking about are two absolute stone cold classics, starting off with one of my favorite movies of all time, October Sky.
I don't think we got a chance.
October Sky.
October Sky was directed by Joe Johnston. It was based on the book Rocket Boys, written by Homer Hickam Jr., and it starred Jake Gyllenhaal, Laura Dern, and Chris Cooper, among others. And it tells the story, the true story, of Homer Hickam Jr., played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He lives in a town called Colwood, West Virginia. They do not farm natural gas. They dig for coal. That's pretty much the town's entire gig. Like, there's two career paths in this town. Football player, and that falls in between slim and none, and coal miner. And every male in this town basically becomes a coal miner. However, Homer has his sights set on bigger aspirations. After seeing the Sputnik satellite fly over their town, he says to himself, I want to do that. And so, with the help of some friends, he starts building rockets. October Sky is just magnificent. I love this movie to pieces. I remember seeing it for the first time in middle school for a science class of all things, and just falling in love with it, and just overall just saying to myself, I've seen it several times in subsequent viewings. It's one of those movies that just it hits me where I live every time. Jake Gyllenhaal, who was legitimately 17 years old when this movie got made, is one of the best parts of the movie, and it just showed right away that he was in for a massive career. Like movies like Nightcrawler, Prisoners alongside Hugh Jackman. He's just gone on to do big things. One of the things I love about this movie is that this movie shows him actually failing. Like he tries building all these types of rockets and then he just fails time and time again, but he doesn't give up. He learns, he reads books on rocket science and mathematics. He gets better, he improves designs. It shows through the power of montage that through the ensuing months after seeing Sputnik, he's like, it's not like a see Sputnik and then he's a rocket scientist now. Like literally the first time he blows up a rocket, he blows up the fence of his own home. And his own mother is like, I thought the mine blew up. It's one of those gratifying things to where he starts and where he finishes is genuinely one of the more satisfying movie experiences I've ever had. Laura Dern plays Miss Riley in one of her best performances. She's a very tragic character, let's just say. But the beating heart of the movie belongs to Chris Cooper, who plays Homer Hickams' dad. When I first saw this movie, I didn't like this character. I thought he was a bit of a dick. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of recognized that he's not that way on purpose necessarily. Number one, that was just the style of the time. And number two, he's got a lot on his plate. His mine is trying to unionize. The mine is running out of coal. He's got a lot of things going on. And the movie even addresses it when on Homer's birthday, he has to take a work call and Homer storms out and his mom's like, Homer, you don't understand. And Homer's like, yeah, he's got a lot on his mind right now. Well, I don't give a damn, as he walks away. You get the frustration, but it's not from a cartoony place. It's not black and white. It's shades of gray, and it's done very well. And Chris Cooper is one of those actors, kind of like Tommy Lee Jones, where you want someone to play a serious guy, but with a heart of gold under all of that. There are several scenes between Jake Gyllenhaal and Chris Cooper that nearly make me tear up, both for sad reasons and for happy reasons, especially the ending, which I will not spoil, even though it's based on a true story, but the ending of this movie is just wonderful. It is getting an amazing grade. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. If for some reason you've never seen this one, do yourself a favor, find the DVD, find the Blu-ray, and watch it. It's not on streaming anywhere that I'm aware of, so find the physical copy of it and watch it. You will not be sorry. But let's close things out with a first-time viewing for me, but one of those comedies that just has always eluded me until now. It's Office Space.
Office Space.
I know you've been getting pretty depressed about your job and everything, and so I just wanted to tell you good things can happen in this world.
Office Space was directed by Mike Judge, the creator of TV shows like Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. And the movie starred Ron Livingston and Jennifer Aniston and John C. McGinley in a sort of brief role, but still funny nonetheless. It tells the story of a guy named Peter, played by Livingston. He works at a company, just a basic company. He sits in a cubicle. He does pretty much a BS job, like a job that even he can't accurately describe, but it pays the bills and it gives him money every week until he just decides, I'm just not going to do that job anymore. And in a bit of reverse psychology, it actually moves him up the corporate ladder, much to the chagrin of his boss, Mr. Lumbaugh. When I was talking to a coworker about watching this movie, she said to me, this is the movie that you will love if you've had a job that you hate. I can say with all sincerity that I have not outright hated all of the jobs that I've worked at, though I've had some borderline miserable ones, let's just say. And I'm very happy with the job that I have now. But if you have a brain and a beating heart, you are going to relate to this movie because if you've ever been employed, you will relate to this movie. It's kind of like The Office. If you have a 40-hour-a-week job, you will relate to some parts of it, similar to Office Space, even down to some of the co-workers, not as extreme examples of, and not at the job that I'm at, but I have met a Milton and a Michael Bolton, like more than a few of those in my life. People you would never electively see in your day to day, but because you're there 40 hours a week, you kind of just are stuck with them. Low key, one of my favorite characters in this movie, and I don't think that was on purpose, was Milton, played by Stephen Root. Now, I know this guy from being the FBI agent in Boardwalk Empire, and he is night and day in this movie. He's just basically, he plays this very timid guy who just, all he wants is his stapler, and Lumbach takes the stapler away from him, and I just felt so sorry for him. He gets shat on all throughout this movie, and my heart breaks every time it happens. I would say the biggest star of this movie is Jennifer Aniston. This came out in 99, I mean, obviously, but in 1998, a little show rather, called Friends was still pretty popular. And so getting Aniston must have been a massive get. And this movie is just really funny. Like, I can't describe why I find it so funny, but it's funny in a relatable sense. And that's what it boils down to. If you have ever been employed, you're going to love this movie because it just speaks to you. It's getting an amazing grade. It's one of those movies where I just want to watch it again now. But that is all for this week's 1999 Project video. What did you all think of any of the movies that I've talked about? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. And stay tuned for next week as we close out February by taking a look at, among other things, 8mm, starring Nicolas Cage and directed by Joel Schumacher. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications so when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.